Hello, and welcome to our channel, MarshStream, your public performance broadcast platform. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. You can also donate to our tip jar and support the arts and artists of MarshStream by clicking the link below in the description. Check out our website, themarsh.org, for all upcoming live performances. Now, enjoy the show.
Good evening, I'm Gail Strickley, and tonight on Solar Arts Heal, Act 1 of Runaway Princess, a hopeful tale of heroin, hooking, and happiness. Mary Goggin is a union actor working on stage, film, and TV for the past 22 years. On stage, her Tennessee Williams roles are her favorite. Her favorite film, Little Children. For TV, Broad City and Guiding Light. Her reel and resume are available at marygoggin.com, which we'll post in the chat for you. And you can find out a lot more about that on her website. Mary is the writer, performer, and self-producer of Runaway Princess, a hopeful tale of heroin, hooking, and happiness. 6 months after the death of her mother, Runaway Princess was written. It was workshopped early 2017 at Matt Hoverman's Go Solo, premiered to a sold-out house at SoloCom at the Pit in 2017. Under the direction of Dan Ruth, the show moved off Broadway to Theater Row and won Best Storyteller, Critics' Choice, and Bestseller at United Solo 2018, as well as Best Actor at the Galway Fringe in 2019. Her show is entirely true.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, every one of you. And now, Runaway Princess. Runaway Princess, Chapter 1. I'm sorry. That was Chapter 7. Runaway Princess, Chapter 1. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a tiny green island called Eru. The island was named for the goddess, Eru. She loved the people just as they were. She protected them, and they flourished. The people were farmers, sheep, cows, pigs, hey! They learned about life from nature. They watched what the bull did when he mounted the cow in the field. Like the cows in the field, they had many children, and like the cows in the field, many died at birth. There was a great sadness in the land, and the goddess could feel it. She did not want the people to be sad. So all of the sadness she magically transformed into poetry and song and dance. And the people were happy. When their neighbor, High Tea Island, gave them potato seeds to grow, the people thanked them. People loved the potatoes. They didn't mind when High Tea took their land, made them tenants, and sent agents to collect the rent. They didn't care when High Tea took their livestock, and they didn't even notice that Eru had vanished and was replaced by evil nuns and whiskey. The evil nuns told the people they were bad. They did bad things, sins they called them. And the biggest sin, the biggest, baddest, Blackest sin of all is what the bull did when he mounted the cow in the field. They gave it a name, an unspeakable name. Sex. The potato crops failed 3 years in a row and the people were starved. They could not pay their rent. The landlords, they didn't care. They told their agents to evict them, but the people wouldn't leave. So they tore the thatched roof off their cottages. The people had nowhere to go. They sat huddled in their roofless cottages playing the fiddle, tin whistle, and spoons, which explains why Irish music is so fucking sad. In order to get the rent, the landlords put the men to work on road crews, but they were starved. They collapsed in the bog and lay dead in the road. The women climbed into holes in the ground with their children, where they were later found still huddled together, dead of starvation and typhoid. 1 million people died. 1 million people fled their home, their island. The goddess, Eru, was devastated. In a last-ditch effort, she sent to them a king and a queen. Edward was the king. He looked just like Gregory Peck. He knew every song and dance and poem in the world. He was magical. It was the schooner Hesperus that sailed the wintry sea, and the skipper had taken his little daughter to bear him company. You don't want to hear the rest of this, do you? It's like a big storm. Skipper ties the daughter to the mast. Next day, some guy finds the daughter's dead, frozen body washed up on the beach, still tied to the mast. That is some nasty shit. Anyway, Lily was the queen. She was the smartest person in the land. She read every book in the world. Lily was the runt of the litter, the shake of the bag. She was a thinker. She carried a weight. She couldn't transform anything into poetry or song. Everything pissed Lily off, for her heart had been broken by a suitor. In order to stop the sadness, she settled and agreed to marry the king. Well, he was a king. He did look like Gregory Peck. Not long after the marriage, the queen discovered that the king could not read or write, and boy, did that piss her off. But the kicker, the landlords lied to the evil nuns and told them that the king and the queen had been caught doing the dirty deed, sex, before the marriage. They were banished from the land and forced to cross the lurching Atlantic in a coffin ship. The scurvy ship had nowhere to sit, so in order to keep their spirits, they danced. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Which explains why Irish dancers never move their arms. The ship sailed in past Ellis and landed in the Bronx. The king learned how to drive a bus, and the queen became a registered nurse, and not long after discovered that she was with child. And that's when she was born. The princess, Mary Pat. The king rejoiced. The queen, not so much. The king sang as he proudly paraded his precious princess everywhere. Sure, a little bit of heaven fell from out the sky one day. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy, is that a little boy you got there? Ha, it's me, little girl. I guess the hair will be coming in soon. She looks just like you, she does. She looks just like Gregory Peck. Slan, get on my hagat. The princess was bigger than life. At age 5, she sped down the steep hill in front of her house on her tricycle with no hands. She climbed to the top of the monkey bars. She was so excited to be in the world. Pretty soon, she didn't take any shit in the sandbox. By age 7, she didn't take any crap from anyone. Her exuberance terrified the queen and the other mothers in the playground. Hey lady, is that a little boy you got there? Is he yours? I would say it's a girl. I don't know who she belongs to. The queen never wanted to claim the princess. She waited till everybody left the playground to get her back to the dark house where everybody fought and drank while beating their chest and saying the rosary. The princess did not want to be inside that dark house. She wanted to be free, outside with her best friend, Dawn. Dawn was plain. She had dirty brown hair, and she wore John Lennon glasses. And all the kids said she was weird because she didn't have any parents, and she lived with her crazy grandmother who no one had ever met. But Dawn was smart. Dawn knew everything about the sea. She knew that horseshoe crabs had 10 eyes and were really dinosaurs. She knew the name or the scientific names of the seaweed that stuck to the slimy rocks that went out to sea for a mile. She knew the names of the barnacles that stuck to the sunken ships they explored. Dawn and the princess were loners. They were outcasts, and they loved it. Dawn was the captain. The princess was Nancy Drew. Now, it's low tide. The horseshoe crabs are in. I calculate we can make it all the way out to the end of the slimy rocks and make it all the way back before the sea comes in and covers them up. Really? Can we? It's risky, princess. Not today. Follow me. The princess followed Dawn through a hole in the bushes. They climbed up the sea well and were stuck in the face with branches and bugs. And there, a faint dirt path appeared. They punched on till they came to a secret door in a dilapidated shack. Your house? My house. There were pink seashells everywhere, strung from one side of the room to the other. There were hundreds of china cups and conch shells and starfish and seahorse curtains. There was a little old lady seated at a huge grand piano. The skin on her hands was see-through and her face was all wrinkly, especially when she smiled, which she did all the time. She served them tea and spoke of the wind picking up and taking the leaves away on the journey. She asked them how school was and looked them dead in the eye and told them how smart they were. Dawn's grandmother was awesome. in order to return the kindness, the princess brought Dawn home to meet the queen. Don't you be bringing that little piece of shite in here. She's a filthy, dirty tinker. She'll be bringing her parents in to rob us, and she goes to public school. Dawn has moved on, and she's now a marine biologist, and she's doing quite well. The princess, not so much. Every day, she waited for her father, the king, to get off work so they could go fishing off the rocks. She always had her coffee can full of worms and proudly put the worm on the hook for the king. Daddy, I don't want to go inside that dark house. Daddy, teach me the jig again. Oh, sorry. Okay. Supper time! Why'd you look at the two of ye? You're an old Egypt and you're fat. Now eat your bloody dinner, I made it. Now eat it. Well, the princess ate, and she ate, and she ate. But it didn't stop the pain. It only made her feel gawky and ugly and fat. Here comes Mary Pat. She's such an ugly freak. I heard she puts out. Oh, she probably does. No, I'm gonna go steady with her. She's such a slut. The princess wanted to be like the other girls. They were tiny. They had waists. They had perfect beehives, and they wore padded bras. And the pretty ones wore glittering ankle bracelets to show they were going steady with the boy. The princess went to Woolworths and stole an ankle bracelet for herself. She tied it loosely around her ankle as she recited Yeats. She pulled the thread and bit the thread and made a golden gown and wept because she dreamt that I am born to wear the crown. What have you got there? All the girls have all the girls. If all the girls jumped off the bridge, would you follow them? Do you know what that means, Mary Pat? Back home on the farm, when the cow was going to have a calf, they tied a red rag around its ankle. You'd better be careful, young lady. You'll be going to the nuns. You'll be going to the laundries. Now get it off you. Get it off you now. No, the princess did not want to be inside that dark house. She didn't want to be inside that padded bra playground. She didn't want to be inside that school either. That's the other place she couldn't breathe. Those fucking nuns were mean. Now, the queen never told the princess anything about sex. The queen never told the princess anything. So when the period blood shows up at school, the news of the precious princess's period spread throughout the land. My mother says that when you get your period, that means you're pregnant. Mary Pat is pregnant? Mary Pat is pregnant. Mary Pat is pregnant. Mary Pat is pregnant. Sister Mary Bernard. Sister Mary Bernard. Oh, Sister Mary Bernard. Mary Pat is pregnant. Mary, Patricia, Elizabeth Goggin, come into my office. Do you know why? Do you know why I called you in here today? I already know that you're in trouble. The blood, Mary Pat, the cow, this red rag, the cow in the field. I know that you're pregnant. The princess is pregnant? She backed out of that principal's office and slammed the holy door and walked across that baseball field. Pregnant? I'm a 12-year-old virgin. No matter what I do, it's not enough. If I get 99 and the queen wants 100, I'm tired. I am tired of trying to be pretty. I am tired of trying to be smart. I'm tired of trying to be what they want me to be. It's not working. They'll never approve of me. Fuck you, Bernard. I'll show you, pregnant. I found my power walking across that baseball field, and I kept on walking. I wasn't going back. I'm going to the other side of the overpass, Miles Avenue. Fuck this fairy tale shit. It's Bronx Tale time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Wow,
Oh,
what a
yeah.
powerful performance.
Oh, thank you. So much fun.
That's something to say, considering the subject matter, but you have done it so beautifully for a while, and I'm really grateful that you're sharing this with us. And I know many people, you know, the show is really in your face, and you said you get a lot of feedback from other people that it's really life-changing for them. What do they tell you?
I've gotten from regular, well, I mean, I was in Galway, and I had a guy that come up to me, and he told me he was a state police officer in New York, and he stopped drinking because of the show. He actually emailed me. He said he was so affected, and he brought his daughter. And I have a number of survivors of sex trafficking in my life, and one of them came to see it, and then she brought everybody else, and they were crying, and they couldn't believe that someone was up there saying exactly what they did and how they felt. And just normal people, they're like, wow, I think it's just so unexpected that an innocent kid from, you know, the Bronx could go that place. This is some scary places. So I hear a lot. I hear a lot of emails. I hear kids, for a teacher friend of mine, her daughter was really troubled and running away from home, and you know, and she's much better now. She started listening, and she got some help. So it's amazing. But most of all, people I don't know from Adam come up to me and tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. And I'm so honored. And to me, that's what the story is about. It gives other people permission to share their secrets. I guess they figured I did. Well, you guys probably may not have seen the second act, but she did so much stuff. It's Sherry tell her anything. She already did everything. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
I've seen your whole show, and it is about addiction. It's about battered women, parenting, about sharing secrets. Right. And as you put it, it's about our humanity. We all have faults. Yeah. I know that you say that people, you know, tell you their deepest, darkest secrets because you're safe. And when you did all that, I guess they feel like you're not going to judge them.
Exactly. No stigma. I'm not going to judge them at all. And that's the beauty of this. I mean, if teenagers or whoever is in trouble today could have a place to go where they could just say what's going on and not be judged. And that's why I wrote the show. I knew I had it in me you know, I knew I had to show Emmy and I had to write it. Then after my mother died, it was the time. And the more I do it, the more I find why I wrote it. And I want to be a safe place for people to tell secrets. And I wish that there were a safe place. I think everybody in high school should see the show. I think community work, I think everybody should see the show. I really do. Because it's shocking.
It is. You really deal with some very serious and upsetting material, and you do it in a beautiful way, and it ends up as being truly a hopeful tale that ends in happiness.
Yeah.
So we know originally why you ran away. What can we do now to prevent runaways? You touched upon it.
Right. I think the main thing is that kids have an option to running away. I felt like I was in a position, like at that school, they wanted me, that nun never would have got away with that now, ever in a million years. But at that school, then my parents wanted me to go back. And I said, I'm not going back. I was a pig-headed kid, stubborn and bigger than life. And, you know, I just wanted to live my life. And I wasn't going back. I mean, it's crazy to say, had I, would I, everything. But the difference is if I was listened to, or if I didn't feel judged. And especially for me, the stigma was in Ireland, the worst thing you could do is be an unwed mother. So that was the huge stigma. I have girlfriends. Not my friends, but these little giggling girls came to the show after the show, and they still thought that my parents sent me to Ireland because I was pregnant, and I wasn't. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. But the power of stigma and gossiping. I've been through that with my daughter. You know, little bullies and little girls behind your back and all that. It's so hurtful.
Mm-hmm. And it gets especially bad in middle school, doesn't it, for the kids?
Yeah, well, puberty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Puberty will do it. Difficult.
Yeah, you kind of talk about your Irish culture. So the Irish culture had to do with it when it came to, you say, showing emotions, and also the stigma of being pregnant, or rather getting pregnant before marriage.
Well, my parents were born in Ireland, and nobody talks about anything and any kind of feeling. I was in recovery maybe 50 or 60 days, and I hugged my mother and she froze. I taught her how to hug after and by the way, tomorrow I am sober 33 years. Tomorrow's my anniversary.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Such a shout out with the world.
Yes, absolutely.
But I don't think it's about Ireland. I really don't. I think that it transcends culture. There is a inability to what's inside the house and what's outside the house. In many cases, kids are one person in the house and they're one person outside of the house. And I really think it has a lot to do with communication. And I think different cultures are really the same, kind of repressed, not talking about feelings. Mm. And I strongly believe that's what needs to open up, and it will, you know, if you saw the rest of the show, then we'll talk about it more.
Yes, well, I did. Yeah. Let me announce before we go any farther that, you know, because we have lots to talk about, but I just want to take a moment to remind the audience that there's a link to the tip jar in the chat, and your tax-deductible support is really needed and much appreciated to keep the MarshStream platform open to our communities during this time of isolation and the theater closure. And also, we encourage your comments and questions. So please, the producers will help us keep an eye on that, whether it's YouTube or on the Zoom. And the chat is open now. And in fact, we have some comments here.
Yeah, lots of comments, I see.
Yes. So first of all, let's go back here. Heather Cohen says, thank you, Dot Johnson. That was awesome. I want more. Gloria Rosen says, a powerful story. Would love to see the entire show. Kristen, Sheila, our producer, says this excerpt really illustrates how much power peers and classmates have when the culture of a school or community is so rigid and so broken at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Great comment.
Yeah.
Heather Cohen says, great. Doreen, where can we see the rest of the show? Maybe this is an opportunity to say you do have another performance coming up in March 18th, is it?
Yes. Yes, you could see the entire show. This is my first time on Zoom. It'll be another Zoom thing, or it's on demand, and the link is on my website if you really want to see it.
So you can see that.
Yeah, runawayprincessplay.com, and
Great.
all my stuff's up there.
Lulu says, great about your anniversary of being sober.
Thank you.
Jane Mershon says, Alateen, 12 steps, a safe place, but this is different because of the artfulness of theater helping tell the story.
Right.
And this is where we focus on Art Heals. This really is a great way to be able to communicate with.
It's about storytelling. I went to this thing, there's this organization, and they had big on Narcan and methadone and medical stuff. And then they had one little box and they said, and storytelling is very important, but nobody had any resource or told where you're going to get a story that's going to be for real. And the power of storytelling, well, I don't have to tell you guys, it's so healing. And there is an organization, and I'm not going to say it's the name, but it's about telling each other stories. And it's, you cannot pay, or they won't take money, but that is the power of storytelling. So actually my mission was to take that out to, maybe there's people that don't get to that bottom, rock bottom, and they may catch this before and make a difference, or say, ask for help, or say, wow, I'm not alone. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. What the Marsh has been doing.
The Marsh rocks
for over 30 years. And this show really focuses on art healings. There's a lot of different, we've done quite a few. In fact, some of our solo Arts Heal, the original core group, have done shows. Joanna Rush, which people can see in addition to your show, which will be cast here on the MarshStream. Joanna Rush, having to do with sexual violence, and in her show Kick, and also Sex and Power. And Bob Brader, a show that
oh yeah, he's great.
Pedophilia in Spitting in the Face of the Devil, and others. We've had some really amazing and powerful shows, and you're certainly among them. I have another comment here from Rose.
Can I just say, though, I just did a talk back for human trafficking, ECLI in Suffolk County, and I'm really open, and you can contact me on my website. I'm really open to doing the show. I hopefully will be back soon, but for a benefit like that, or if you can think of let me know. That's all. Talk to me.
No, that's great. That's great. I was going to read, and I will read some more comments in the chat. Right. And I hope we get some questions as well from the audience. But let's talk about that for a minute, because I know January is, I think it's Slavery and Sex Trafficking Awareness Month. And you did a show, and at that time you did a talk back with ECLI, which is Empowerment Collaborative of Long Island. That provides crisis intervention, counseling, and advocacy and a lot of support services that empower transition to independence for trauma victims. And so tell us about that talk back and what that was like.
Well, the thing is that with prostitution, it's a double stigma whammy. So it's such a relief. It was such a relief to hear it spoken about so openly. With the girls. And then there was this amazing detective who works there, and he works with this ECLI. And when he arrests someone, he has a court partner, like a lawyer, that looks out for what's best for this young lady. Can we get her away, to get him away from their pimp? Sometimes they go to jail just to get away from their pimp. And there was a lot of conversation about, oh, bad pimps, and they're horrendous. They're blood suckers. But on the other hand, it was just a lot about, being safe and, talking to your kids, and that it's not just, my point is that it isn't it's everybody is susceptible to that.
I watched that talk back, and the police detective Sergeant James Murphy was the guy, and he was talking about how sex exploitation is created by force, fraud, or coercion to lure its victims into forced labor or sexual exploitation, and that most manipulation starts within their own homes. He said 80% of those interviewed that was true, and that the sex trauma makes them vulnerable to traffickers, and because they're seeking what we all need, love. And the traffickers are masters at locating people that are depressed and feel broken on the inside. And they prey on these women, mostly women, can be men too, but women and girls are the most at risk as they pretend to show them love and affection. And
they want to be loved and belong. And if you see, like, the next part of the show is I go to Miles Avenue and I found a group of people that are older, and I feel so loved. And it's the first time that I ever felt like I belonged anywhere. And I started shooting heroin, to be part of. So that's really what it's about. It's about love and belonging. It's really the.
And when you started shooting heroin, how old were you?
13.
You were 13. And did you have a pimp at that time? I mean, is that how that started?
No, I didn't. I didn't actually. Well, I don't want to ruin the whole story, but it's I don't want to ruin it. It was later on. It was later on. I was actually 21 when I ran into the pimp on a plane back from a drug rehab. It's kind of crazy. And that's when I started hooking.
Pulled you back in, or pulled you into a
whole new world.
And we'll see that in Act 2 when
you
do your whole show. Absolutely.
And my daughter, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, wow, thanks for all the comments. Look at these comments.
Yes. Here, let me read a few more comments. And then, so Rose said, what an impressive, powerful performance. And we have your website listed there, marygoggin.com, and also runawayprincessplay.com. You can go directly to the show. Rose says your honesty and candor is relatable, definitely. Yeah. And Kristen, it's about storytelling. Yes, indeed. And Dorothy asked, will Mary be performing more? Well, not tonight, but she definitely performs this show. As we said, you can go to her website and see, and hopefully we'll see her again here at the Marsh sometime.
So I would love to come back to the Marsh.
Someone's asking for the donation. Oh, there's the donation tip jar again. Yep. Good. Thank you for your donations. Very, very grateful for those. We're also posting some crisis hotlines and help. There's many all over the country. We posted one here in San Francisco, the SF Safe House, where you can at least find information. There's another empower.org, human trafficking, that can really inform you about these issues. Marge says, Mary, great performance, truth. Love, rock and roll.
Mark. Oh, wow. I love it.
Mary says, I recently learned about a film, Still I Rise, by Holly Josh and Leah Albright Bird, Sex Trafficking and Racism in Oakland. Have you seen the film?
No, but I'm going to.
Thank you, Sherry. So will we. So Still I Rise by Holly Josh and Leah Albright Bird.
Okay.
Very good. Ms. Bev says, Mary, every time I hear your story, you give me hope. Love you, Bev.
Aw.
Kristen says, here's a question from Lulu, maybe that came from the YouTube, about why to choose to tell the true story in the third story and the fairy tale format. Maybe she meant
I found that, I really got, and that's another thing, women writing their lives, that's another thing. I would like to do workshops on that, but I found that to write our first exercise when I walked in this place into Manhope, it was write your entire story as a fairy tale on one piece of paper. And that was so powerful for me. And it allowed me to detach. It was a fairy tale. It wasn't just to be able to detach from it. And so then I just, this evolved. Yeah, it's a fairy tale. I mean.
Well, I could. Well, as a little girl, we all, or little girl, little boys, we all look at fairy tales and you know, want to believe those stories, but they don't always turn out quite that way. Does it continue as a fairy tale in the second act? I think you answered that, but answer that.
It's still the king and the queen are still the king and the queen.
Very good.
Yeah, you have to see it. It's hard to say. It's somebody called it in Ireland. Somebody called it magical realism.
Oh, I like
which
that.
I love. Magical realism.
We have a correction here about that film. It's not by Josh and Albright Bird, but Sherry Schuster. So anyway, we still have the title correct.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie Bo says, "Brava, so powerful, great performance."
Thanks, Jackie.
Mm-hmm. And Anna Bertero, perhaps, if I'm pronouncing it right, says, "I definitely love to see the full performance. I support fundraising efforts to rescue sex traffickers."
Wow.
So that's
call me. Call me. And Runaway Princess is also a not-for-profit, so there's a link on my website too if you want to, if you'd like to. Yeah, but call me. That's what it's about. It's about getting the word out. It's just about conversation and sharing, just like we're doing now. That's what it's about. Thank you.
I wanted to give a few figures just because, you know, some people don't even believe that sex trafficking exists. And every year there are approximately, and this is a huge range, so we're not exactly sure, but between 600 and 800,000 victims of trafficking are bought, sold, or forced across international borders. Trafficking is the third largest criminal industry in the world, with revenues totaling $9.5 billion annually, and it's expected to surpass the two largest other criminal industries, narcotics and firearms. So wow. It's a modern day form of enslavement. It's interesting that when we look at what we were talking about earlier, that January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month.
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness month. You know, and I also want to say different, we're going to be having Joanna Rush come back with her show Sex and Power in April, and that's National Sex Assault Awareness Month. And October is Child Abuse Awareness Month. But I just want to say, like Black History Month, these issues are every month.
Right.
Every month. And I hope that we can have more theaters and more places where we can have these open conversations and address the stigma that is attached to substance abuse and prostitution and trafficking, because these are things that we can work to heal. And and as you say, Mary, by listening, by having people that can listen, having schools aware and keep an eye on what's happening with children and you know, other people. If you see something, and now, do they have this in New York? Here, I hope it's everywhere. Buses now have for just the general public, they have a list of things to look for someone that might be being trafficked. It gives you a list of...
nobody goes outside to see the buses.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's like nobody's there.
But occasionally, you know, you will have a person on a bus with their, you know, with the person who's trafficking them, or in public. And there's certain things that you might look for that might tip off where, you know, you might be able to get help for them.
Yeah.
So that's quite something. But I think,
wouldn't it be nice if you could dial 911 and there would be a officer that was educated in the whole non-stigma and educated about that really these girls are humans. And the other thing is with me, I mean, I have a daughter and I drank, or I gave her up a couple times, and I drank and left her alone. And that is for me, that was the most powerful, shameful stigma that I needed to work through. But that's another thing that I'm strongly, I mean, talk about it. It's a disease, you know.
Mm-hmm. And what finally changed that? What was the thing that happened that made you change that with your daughter?
I was losing my apartment and my job, and I was losing my daughter again. They were social services was taking her away. And I was in this person's apartment. I don't even know where I was, but battered woman therapist. I was on the phone with her, and she said, you should go away. And Deirdre, my daughter, it's her real name. It's in the show. It's okay. Deirdre said, you can't go away, mommy. You're all that I have. Because her father was out of the picture. And that was it. For everyone, I guess, has their moment of clarity. And my thought was, it was the first time, how could it doesn't matter that what I do to myself. I know I'm an alcoholic and piece of garbage, but how can I do this to my child? She was 9. And I just said, I'm going to do what I'm told. And it's hard to get sober because there's so many stigma. Like if I'm not drinking, then I have to look at being a horrible mother and I have to look at the monster I am. And that's really kept me out of it. But I did. And I just gave up and I said, I'm done. And I got, I went to an outpatient, and that was discovery. And then, recovery is, other meetings and stuff. And she's amazing. She's an amazing kid. Well, she was there the night that I at United Solo, the first time the show went up. She was in the audience, and there's a line in the end of my daughter. And then I said, well, you can ask her yourself because you're right there. And she got up and hugged me. It was like not a dry eye in the house. Right?
Oh, I'll bet not.
I know. I'll never forget that.
Well, you've got a great daughter and she's got a great mom.
Yep.
And I want to say something in that talk back with ECLI that you said, and it so spoke to me, and I think it will to everybody. You said, I don't worry about anybody judging me. It's that I no longer judge myself. It's about liberation.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be doing this if I believed that. If I didn't, I'm in a place that I don't care what it's not that I don't care, but
sure,
I'm okay with it. So it's okay.
Let's see. Let me read a couple more comments here. Kristen says, thank you. Oh yes, we're posting links for services if people want, but there's lots you can find online. Of course, we just posted some from said, loved seeing your work. And Stephanie Weissman is, Stephanie Weissman, who's the founder, artistic director of the Marsh. So glad that she's here, of course, as she always is. She says, Still I Rise as Sherry Schuster examines the role of racism and sex trafficking with women closest to the problem and the solutions. Over the course of 5 years in the Bay Area, we filmed the lives of brilliant pioneering advocates, Holly, Joshi, and Leah Albright Bird.
Wow.
So she straightened that out there. And Sherry says, I plan to see it and understand it is a life changer. And thank you, Stephanie, for the detailed information. And Sherry says, thank you, Mary, for your story and your willingness to share it with us. As does Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And let's see, Jane Mercer.
Thank Gail. Gail got me. Gail got me.
And and others, Valerie David, who's our solo artist, is certainly someone who recommended you, and Cynthia Shaw, who's also performed with us.
Valerie's the Pink Hulk. She has a play.
I'm very aware of your show.
Velvet Determination. We actually went to Ireland together. She's a concert pianist, and how she achieved that against, with the parents that didn't believe in her, and they're writing shows.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Mary G. So curious about next act, by the way. Great opening about Chapter 7, Scream. That is a wonderful opening. Very powerful.
That's Dan Ruth, my amazing director, who has a show called A Life Behind Bars. And he's a bartender that's an alcoholic. And he's amazing. He's amazing. A lot of it was his. The book is his. And he did that Scream. I love that Scream.
Oh, yes. It's fabulous.
Hi, Dan. I hope you're watching.
So So what is next? Let's talk for a minute. There's so much here, but you're let's see. You have done so many different things. You said you love your favorite roles include Ella O'Neill, wife of Eugene O'Neill, and Anne
Oh, yeah.
Babylon.
Yeah, I did it at the YMCA is a great theater. This woman, yeah, it was just great. She was a heroin addict. And it was about, she went to a convent to stop using heroin. So it was a perfect role for me.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Wow. Yeah, that was deep.
That was in the Broadway Bound Festival, I guess. And
yeah.
you were directed by Cindy Marion, weren't you, in several Tennessee works?
Do you know Cindy? You know,
I don't.
White Horse Theater. Cindy directed me in 4 or 5 Tennessee Williams plays at the Players on Gramercy Park in New York. She does a lot of like the older 1970s Tennessee Williams with they're just amazing. Yeah.
And you were in PB&J for the New York Fringe Festival and Born to Be Blue, winner of the Samuel French Festival.
Yeah, that was amazing. It was just about a blue collar. It was just the most fun. And then to win an award is truly. And then I did a film. I got Best Actor at Film Freeway. My friend who's in recovery, Janine, wrote a film about her. It's a scene in the front seat of her car with her mother trying to tell her mother she's an alcoholic. And it's called Reservations. And she won awards and I won an award. And it was great. So it's all about a community of writers and actors and artists. I love being an actor. People say, like, what did you do? If they meet me, what did you do before you were an actor? And I say, I drank. And then, okay. It's like, it's totally normal. It's, I love being an actor.
I'm so glad that you do. We all benefit. I see a couple of people are raising their hands, and because of our format, the way it works, it's too hard to unmute you because we have a lot of things going on production-wise. But if you would please post your questions in the chat or comments, we really would love to hear them. And
it's rock and roll March. Oh.
Yeah. Please do that. And the time already is getting close to closing, and I wanted to see if there's any other, what else is on your mind that you'd like to share about your show or about your good work?
Well, what I want to share is that I'm trying to raise money to have the show centralized. So I can, it can be available and I can show the benefit to schools and social workers and the police. And that's really what I want to do. It's hard to describe and it's an experience. And so that's really it's my mission in life and it's why I was born. And I know that now.
You have a passion, you have a gift, and you have.
Oh my God, it's such a gift. I cannot tell you how having people come up and tell their like dirty, dark secrets or whatever. For me, they feel safe enough with me. It's the most incredible high.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also, weren't you you were working for the David Prize, is it called? So that for people that can make a difference.
I applied for that David Prize. I don't know if I won yet. The David Prize gives $10,000, gives $200,000 to 4 New Yorkers to make a difference in New York. So I applied. I don't know if I won yet, but wouldn't it be nice?
That would be fantastic. I thought maybe you were in a finalist there.
I am a finalist, but I'm not a winner yet.
So, and you want to create an open forum for communications in schools, and because, as you say, it starts with talking about secrets and not being isolated.
I want to have access to big time government to be able to sell my show, to get it mainstream. That's what I want to do. Right. And I'm going to do it.
Yes, you are. There's comments here. People are totally behind you. Antonio says, so brave, Mary's story, love it. And Dot Jansen says, STEP could help you with that. I think we're talking about making a difference and being able to. So STEP could help with that, or have STEP hook you up with Ron Jones, who's got the show out across the world.
STEP, STEP.
STEP.
You know what? Excuse me, if I could just say, my email is Mary Goggin 218 at Gmail. If anybody has ideas, that I would really appreciate it to move this forward.
And finally, I want to ask, there's a question here from Kristen. Do you meet youth at risk in any capacity, and how does that go for you?
I absolutely do. I've had people come in to see the show that are survivors, not in crisis at this moment. I have had teenagers see the show that it has changed their lives in terms of relationships. What I want to do and what I was supposed to do, I have a friend who's a counselor in Savannah. I was going to do the show in the Savannah County Jail. I graduated from Marymount Manhattan. I got a scholarship. They had Bedford Women's Prison. They had a college equivalent. They were given college degrees there. And there was words about me going there and teaching. And I would love to work in prisons. Mm-hmm. And so then there's COVID. So I'm starting over, and everything happens for a reason.
I want to say one thing, because we do talk about the evil nuns, and being someone that also went for 10 years to parochial schools. And
you did? I didn't know that.
But I do want to say that it was a nun that asked you the question that led to your career. Tell us about that.
I was on a retreat for recovering alcoholic women. I think I had a year sober, and I walked in. It was Jesuits, so they're not like nunny, they're kind of nice. And I walked in. It wasn't a confession or a mass or anything. And she said, "So, are you an actress?" And I said, "Yeah, I wish." And that stuck with me. And I realized that I could do anything I wished. And she saw me, and she just... it's miraculous. And she was my friend. She died, but we were in contact for many years after that. And we did an Artist's Way class together. I mean, and the nuns, I don't want to ruin the story, but there's so many nuns in my life now as a positive. And the irony is hysterical, really.
There's a lot of good nuns out there.
A lot of good nuns.
I think it was harder though when we were young than perhaps it is today. And then you did the Artist's Way, and you got a scholarship to Marymount Manhattan.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys
department.
Julia Cameron's book, and there's a contract that you're going to write every day, and you're going to do all this. And I signed it September 17th, 1995. And I started I had it on my wall, and I started Marymount the same date a year later. And I looked at it, and it was synchronicity. That once that ball gets rolling of writing, anybody's out there, if you start writing what you want and uncovering what it is, who you are when you were little, that whole journey just it takes off by itself. And that's my journey.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I'd like to read this quote in closing, but first, actually, I want to correct something that Steph, it wasn't Steph, it's Steph. She meant talk to Stephanie about, because Ron Jones took his play all over Europe, and Wayne Harris also had a show with a connection to the Middle East. They might have ideas for you. So you can talk to
Stephanie, the Marsh Stephanie?
At the Marsh Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Not Step. But
okay. I was like, what? Okay.
Step.
And Stephanie, I'll be calling you, Steph.
And remember, please, about the tip jar. That's in the chat again. And I want to read this quote from Pat Simon, a professor in the theater department at Marymount Manhattan College. Mm-hmm. She says, Mary Goggin is a survivor. With humor, charm, and candor, she shares her story of self-transformation. I laughed and cried. I felt all the feels. Sharing our stories and using our gifts to help others is an artist's responsibility. Bravo, Mary Goggin. And I add to that, bravo, Mary Goggin. It's
She's
been
my
a pleasure to have
professor,
you
of
with us
course.
tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gail. You're an amazing interviewer.
Thank you. Well,
you are.
So I want to say, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you, for coming, and thank you for the comments. And well, we're in each other's lives now. That's not a coincidence.
I'm so glad. So a very special thank you, Mary Goggin, for your performance excerpt of her award-winning Runaway Princess and for the valuable talkback we engaged in tonight. Resources are in the chat along with the tip jar. And Mary, you can see on her website, she'll have a full show March 18th coming up. And you can look for this and other Solo Arts Heal shows and more at themarsh.org and then the MarshStream YouTube platform. Next week on Solo Arts Heal, join us for Diane Barnes performing excerpts from her wonderful solo show, My Stroke of Luck, a captivating and inspiring story about forging a new identity after a debilitating stroke. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be having live from India, Dipti Mehta in honor Confessions of a Mumbai Courtesan. Again, talking about some of these issues we're talking about tonight. So be sure to see that. It's a fabulous show. And
I saw it. It's really good.
Wonderful. So thanks again, Mary, and to our producers, Kristen Scheel and Brianna, and our general manager, Brian Williamson, of course, to Stephanie Weissman, and always to our Zoom and YouTube audiences. See you next week.